thank you, Ms. McDaniel, for your service. We appreciate it. All right. Next up would be the birthday boy, Mr. Bobby Wilson. Everybody wants to sing happy birthday? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bobby. Happy birthday to you. McMillan said at 68, your eyes were the first thing to go, so that's why you're...
That's pretty good. I'm not much older than him, though. Thank y'all. I appreciate that. Way back a long time ago, about 6 months after I was born, a man caught a 14-pound, 8-ounce largemouth bass on October 17th, 1954, down in Sugar Creek in Lawrence County, Tennessee. His name was James Luge Barnett. About 10 or 11 years ago, we were thinking about this record, and in fact, it was almost a 50-year-old record, and realized we didn't know much about it except what you see on the screen there, and that's about all the information that we had. And so I asked a now retired captain, Chuck Borm, who lives in Lawrence County. He was an officer down there and resides down there, if he knew anything about the person that caught the record fish, knew anything about it. And he said he did not, but he would look into it. So he went down into the general area there and found out some very interesting information. It turns out that Mr. Barnett had passed away in 1979, but he was able to locate his widow and some of his relatives that lived down there in that area. On that day, on October 17th, in Sugar Creek, it was apparently a big hole in the creek, a big deep area below one of the mill dams, and he was using creek minnows, and he caught it, this record fish. And then they took it to the local newspaper in Lawrenceburg and took pictures of it. The wildlife officer showed up, verified the fish and certified the weight, and it has stood for many years as the state record. So we wanted to recognize the 50-year anniversary of that back in 2004, and we, at the commission meeting, I think it was in Fall Creek Falls, back in October, almost to the day of the 50 year. Here's a picture of me presenting a certificate of the record fish to the widow of James Barnett. They didn't have a certificate, they didn't have any pictures, they had no information. We didn't have anything either. So we were able to give this record to Miss Barnett to acknowledge the 50-year anniversary of that. And you can't see it until I blow it up, but it turns out his name is James Logue Barnett, not Luge Barnett. We had it misspelled for 49 years, I guess, and Logue was short for Logan. And his family didn't even know that he had a record until almost before he died in 1979. And then when they told him about it, he was a deaf mute and had, Mr. Barnett was a deaf mute and had problems communicating. He didn't even know he had a record. So they said he just laughed about it and just went on. So, but we recognized that back in October 1954. And here's a group picture of the family members of Mr. Barnett, as well as former Director Gary Myers and former Commissioner Skip Simonton and former and current Commissioner Bill Cox. And all that changed back on a very lucky Friday the 13th in February of this year when Gabe King caught a 15-pound, 3-ounce bass in Chickamauga Lake. And we're here today to recognize that, but before we do that, I believe we have a short video we're gonna watch. The Florida Bass Program in Tennessee came about as a result of interest among the fisheries folks in Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and also as a result of numerous requests from the anglers of the state of Tennessee. We are in our second year of evaluating the program. We stocked some last year, we've already stocked some this year, and we intend to stock some next year and for years to come. We would like to provide the fishermen with a greater diversity and a good possibility of catching some largemouth bass in the waters of Tennessee. We contacted the state of Florida and asked them if there'd be any possibility that we could obtain some Florida bass fingerlings for stocking in our agency lakes in Tennessee. And we requested about 50,000 to begin with. We ended up with 15,000, although what we requested to begin with would have been maybe an inch to an inch and a half long. What we ended up with were 2.5 to 3 inch long fingerlings. So we went down to Blackwater Fish Hatchery, located near Pensacola, Florida. Our guys from the Humboldt Fish Hatchery went down there and found out a little bit about the Florida bass fingerlings and their program. Early the next morning, around 4 o'clock, they loaded up the fish and took off back to Tennessee. New home. From Florida to Tennessee.
Now this is not a Florida bass. They hadn't been stocking them that long. But the hope is that if they catch on, there'll be a lot more bass in Chickamauga this big, if not bigger.
This project here, especially at this level, Chickamauga is really unique in that it's been 15 years of consistent stocking. Like I said, we put over 2 million fish in. We've stocked every year with the exception of 2011. We actually had met and achieved our goal by 10 years into this project on Chickamauga in 2010. Our project goal was to implement 15% of the Florida genes into the largemouth bass genome. And by 2010, we had increased that to 33% through our genetic studies. We have regulations that are in place for the size limits and the creel limits. We also monitor with creel surveys to keep an eye on the fishing pressure that we have and how that has increased over time with the popularity of the reservoir that the largemouth bass have brought in. We also do electrofishing surveys. We'll look at the length and weights and conditions of the fish. Tells us a lot about the population dynamics and just keeping a real good eye on that population.
Mike says he thinks it's very possible a new state record could come from Chickamauga Lake. Chris Coleman agrees. In February 2012, Coleman was just 16 ounces away from the new state record with a 13.5-pound bass. TWRA doesn't keep official lake records, but...
I said, well, is that not the biggest one you've ever seen, Felix? He said, well, yeah. I said, well, I'm calling it the lake record. He said, well, it's your fish. You can call it what you want to.
Now, a lot of people always ask, well, what's the biggest fish that you've seen out there? And we have seen some 8-9 pounders shocking, but most of the big fish that we've been able to look at and do research on have actually been caught by anglers, either while they're just out fishing or in tournaments, and they've been gracious enough to share those fish with us. We've taken a fin clip, and then the fish have been released back into the wild.
This week, a record-sized field of college anglers are in Dayton, Tennessee on Lake Chickamauga at the Collegiate Bass Fishing Open. Located in southeastern Tennessee and Ray County, Lake Chickamauga has consistently produced some of the biggest bass in the country. Many are calling this lake the bass capital of the South.
Chickamauga is currently rated number 6 on Bassmaster's Top 100 Lakes in America. And the past several years, we've been experiencing off-the-chart stringers of bass, as many as 5 bass limit weighing 49 pounds recently this spring. TWRA tells us that the next state record is swimming here in Lake Chickamauga. The current state record is 14.6.
I'm Gabe Keene here in Dayton, Tennessee on Lake Chickamauga, the new bass fishing capital of the South, and I just caught the new state record.
So Gabe, tell us about the big day out on Chickamauga there a couple weeks ago.
School up here got canceled for illness on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so I got a couple days where I could go practice for a tournament. It was a Catch Ministries tournament on Chickamauga out of Grasshopper Creek, so I went down Wednesday night and fished Thursday and Friday, just regular practicing for a tournament. Thursday, caught a couple fish, real windy and snowy. I was kind of down, wasn't really on anything. And Friday, I went back to kind of a pattern that I thought, I'd catch some fish on, and put in about 9:30, put in down at Chester Frost and run around and tried a few things, and caught a fish at about 10 or 10:15 on a rattle trap. Wasn't getting a ton of bites, just I caught that one fish, and then at 11:45, that's when the 15-pounder hit, and then my practice day was over.
I've heard a few interviews that you've given to other people and talking about that day, and you weren't afraid to tell everybody what you were fishing with.
No. I was fishing with an umbrella rig. It's a Tennessee rig. It's 5 wires, 3 hooks. Dixie Custom Rods makes it. They call it a Viper rig. This time of year down there, the umbrella rig is just hard to beat. They had Zoom Swimming Super Flute Juniors. That's a shorter swim bait around the outside, and the one in the middle was a regular Zoom Swimming Super Flute, and it was just a little bit bigger.
That day, you know, there's times when you get a call and somebody says, hey, I think I've got a record fish here. And the call I got was from one of my managers, and he knew Gabe and said, hey, it's showing 15 pound 3 ounces on his handheld scale in his boat. And I thought, this one may have a possibility here. It was far enough above that even if the scales had a little flaw in it, it was going to be close. So once he got through the process of having it certified, and I got that call that it had been on certified scales and that it had beat the record, then it just went wild. I was getting calls from, of course, coworkers, the public, marina operators, and, of course, talked with Gabe, and had a lot of media calling and a lot of questions. And it was about an 8 to 10 hour phone call event for me.
Now, you and I grew up in the same area, but tell the viewers about yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm from Meigs County, Decatur. Went to Meigs County High School, and down there you're always close to woods and water. And my family, my dad, my grandparents, and all my friends, you know, they hunted and fished, and I'd done all that stuff growing up, just like, you know, anybody else, and it stuck with me.
Talk a little about your mentors.
Well, my dad, first of all. I mean, anybody who's their dad hunts and fishes, you're going to end up going with them a lot. And my grandfather, you know, Harold, and they both spent a lot of time in the woods and on the water. Therefore, I did too, and I grew to like it and love it, and they encouraged it, and it's just a good thing. And those are probably my 2 biggest mentors. And then later in life, you start fishing some tournaments and start fishing them as a non-boater and stuff, and the boaters that you get drawn with, call them mentors in a way too. You learn a lot from people that you fish with.
After college, you wound up at Campbell County High.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about how you got here, and there's a special team that you coach here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, out of college, I worked for a little while I was looking for a job, and Campbell County High School called, and we've been talking some, and it never quite worked out with teaching position, coaching position, and finally they called and said they had a world history teaching position and a position to coach the fishing team. And so I mean, how do you say no to that? But I do. I coach the fishing team and I teach world history here at Campbell County High School. The team, we're in our 3rd year. Compared to the size of other teams around, we have one of the biggest teams. As far as success, we've been very blessed with good fishermen and good boat drivers. It all sets up for having a good year. And last year, we fished a lot of tournaments, fished some Bass Pro Shop high school tournaments. We had one boat that won the first tournament, Craig Wilson and Trevor St. John on Cherokee, and then they qualified for the Classic and won it. But we always have boats up in the top 10. We do. We have a good team.
Yeah, I've been on the team since the first year it started till now, and it's improved a lot. You know, you get a lot of great opportunities to go fish against different schools and different big tournaments. And yeah, you get a lot of college opportunities. Gabe, he helped me try to get on down there with his dad at Bryan, and so you can still get a lot of college opportunities and get baits and stuff, and it just helps you out tremendously.
And it also helps us with our grades and how we're doing in school, because we have to have a C average so we can fish our tournaments. And it also helps us get our name out there if we want to fish like professionally or get in college, which also gives scholarships, and that's a good door to the colleges too.
This is my freshman year. I've wanted to fish since like the 6th grade of middle school. I tried to get like a fishing team started at the middle school, but they wouldn't let us, so ever since I've been really excited to get up here and fish.
What's some of the highlights that stick out in y'all's mind, y'all's tournaments and stuff?
Well, recently, me and my partner Craig Wilson, we got to fish the Bassmaster National Tournament Classic, and one of the biggest highlights was just walking across the stage and seeing all the thousands of people there and representing our team on national level.
So you were on the same stage as the big boys, huh?
Yeah.
Who's your mentor? Who's taught you how to fish?
It would probably be my dad and then just some of my friends that I've grown up with. You just learn from everybody.
Mine would probably be my dad, probably my papa.
it will definitely be my dad and D. Wilson, who also owns Dixie Custom Rods, which is what Gabe caught his 15-pounder on Chickamauga. He makes the rig for that. And the students at the school, you know, they brute force when we go to our tournaments. And the school, if we have a big tournament like we went to the Nationals, they gave us a couple of days off to go practice so we could do better in that tournament. But they support us tremendously. I think TWRA is doing a great job, because I've heard about like Chickamauga used to be called Sycamauga, and you guys started doing the 4-string largemouth in it, and it's just turned into an absolute freak. And it's 49-pound limit of bass by Roger Brown, and 15-pounder by my coach. So you guys done a great job on that.
With this process of seeing a project that we're in the 15th year of it, it's really rewarding to see an outcome like this of a record fish that has been established, and it's broken a 60-plus year record fish that we've had in Tennessee. It's great as a biologist to be part of that. It's great to see somebody like Gabe that's been such a great recipient of this. He's been very gracious and supportive of the agency for anything that we've needed. And it's just been a process that has kind of come to a pinnacle with this record fish, and who knows where it'll go now.
The fish that I caught, I mean, you just don't find that everywhere. And TWRA, through me talking to them, I mean, I didn't know that this has been going on for 15 years. I mean, that's a long time to be working on one project. And I think they're seeing it pay off and see that it's working and it's a good thing. But they do a great job, everything they do, woods and water. But on the water, Lake Chickamauga with the Florida Strain Stocking Program, it's amazing. I mean, they took a good lake and they've turned it into an amazing lake.
It's really been a surreal moment. Even when we were looking at the fish, it was when you actually thought about and observed that you were looking at a state record fish that a lot of people had pursued for over 60 years, and that I was having the moment of being able to evaluate that fish and interview the angler that caught it, and that a lot of people's careers had come and gone in fish management that never got to be a part of something like this. And I was very appreciative, very excited about it. And it brought a lot of things into focus about the importance of good management, also the excitement that the angling community can have around a fishery when it's like it is on Chickamauga. And it really gives you a lot of fuel to go forward in the future and and try to do the best you can for the resources as we always do.
An excellent video by the I Division, and special recognition to Jason Harmon for putting it all together. Did a good job. So at this time, Gabe, would you like to say anything?
Thank you for having me here today, and it's been an honor going through this. You want to step up to the microphone? Just wanted to thank everybody for having me here today. This is a great honor. I never would have imagined that I would have been here doing this. I hope I've done this the right way, try to make the most of the opportunity. And again, thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Gabe. We have the official record certificate here. We'd like to present to Gabe, and Lee, if you don't mind, come over and take some pictures.
Bobby, do you know how long will you before you'll know if it was a pure Florida or an F1?
Oh, we already know. It was a F1, or the hybrid. It was a first generation cross between a pure Florida and a pure Northern. We found that information out a couple weeks ago.
Thank you very much, and you're gonna have to take some of us fishing sometime, you know. But Bobby, you and your staff have done phenomenal. It's a big boost for the agency, and your staff has done well.
Thank you. There are some of them here I won't recognize them. We have several folks in the fisheries world in the region in our division that have one.
I just want to know, Bobby, was that your idea to put your video of you, like, what was that, like 30 years ago? How long ago was that? You look pretty good there, buddy. You still do. I'm just kidding. Happy birthday.
You have to thank Mr. Griggs for that. He sent out a message today was your birthday, so.
He wanted to make sure we knew.
Before we go to the committees, I'd like to recognize we have 3 new commissioners sitting up here. If you want to stand up, Dr. Jeff Cook from Franklin, and Kurt Holbert from Decaturville, and then Bill Swan from Dunlap. Y'all want to get up and say a speech or anything like that, you're more than welcome. You, 2 minutes. Oh, I'm just kidding. Moving on, move to the Fisheries Management Committee now. Mr. David Watson, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call Alan Peterson and Dwight Hensley, too, please.
I'm going to make my part real brief and turn it over to Dwight. Last commission meeting, I gave a presentation on Carroll Lake for those commissioners that are new and don't know about this. Past June, there was a 10-inch rain in a short period of time in Carroll County, and the rains filled the lake up above capacity and ruined the gates that hold the lake in, and it's been drained to the point that it looks like a cattle pasture for the last year. And we gave a presentation on the process we've been going through to determine what to do with the lake. It's a TWA owned lake, and Commissioner Cox, I believe, asked that we come back at this commission meeting with some firmer figures and be able to decide how to approach fixing or abandoning or whatever we were going to do with the lake. And Dwight's worked quite a bit here this last month putting some numbers together, and I'm going to turn it over to Dwight.